Imagine that dinosaurs existed today, had never become extinct, so the reality show that would include the Flintstones. 66 million years ago, roughly, and the size of Mount Everest as an asteroid struck while moving at 45,000 miles per hour present day. Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico saw a severe impact. A series of circumstances that the dinosaurs' extinction, which had the Earth for 160 million years. Hello and welcome to KYC News. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. It also essentially destroyed getaways for tourists who can't afford them. If not for this, she wouldn't have come. So asteroid destroys the opposition. Most likely, animals wouldn't have had an opportunity to progress and change. Hey, that implies. That raises the question of what makes us humans. Suppose that asteroid had missed anything. How different would the planet be now if dinosaurs continued to exist before here? We examine this dinosaur field. Make sure you sign up for our turn on post alerts in the channel, so that you are constantly the first to simply for fun view our daily updates. Now obvious that this is not a Jurassic Park. I'm going to present you with the dinosaurs appeared in those films as given new life and thrown into the whereas here we're talking about regarding the idea that dinosaurs. First off, no problem with that. After this disclaimer, let's examine in the first place. We must lay note some historical context. In the late Triassic, there were dinosaurs. The Jurassic and Cretaceous epochs, the 180 million years long Mesozoic era, of course, that occurred in a million years. Just prior to the classical era with Beethoven and Mozart, well, not really. Earth had an extremely warm climate at the time. A mildly changing seasonal climate, and the supercontinent Pangaea has no polar ice. Had just begun to degenerate into fewer land masses, which would number millions decades later. The 7 continents that exist today, according to estimates, there were about in the Mesozoic, there were 2,500 different types of dinosaurs. Era that came in a variety of forms. Some herbivores reached heights of around 100 tons and measured feet long, were required to consume over 300 pounds of food each day. There were several species throughout the shattered asteroid and the globe. The impact of their world on them all depending on where they are, different ways. Was this iconic asteroid essentially a meteor? A massive space rock ignited into a blaze. When faced with conflict and gravity in the atmosphere of the Earth, and it with a force of 100 million pounds. Megatons of collision sent debris flying into at a speed of 100,000 miles per hour. The air 80 cubic miles of the Earth's volume burst. Crust lifted off the surface, causing a powerful 11.1 earthquake that has repercussions. Seismic waves coming from Yucatan, wow, the Pacific Northwest to the peninsula speak of having a powerful punch. And if that weren't enough, the temperature of the air soared to an astounding 600 degrees. That's hot enough in Fahrenheit to suck the moisture immediately from all the plants in the area and even boil. The dinosaur's skin contained water. Strongest winds closest to the blast zone sufficient to tear through tissue and throw 30 tons of animals drifted about like dolls. Waves that travel across the air, and all of this took place in about 5 minutes. The following authors more 70 billion tons of ash and dust were produced by the impact. The high atmosphere, filling and traveling at an incredible speed of 10,000 miles per hour. Cloud moved from the current Mexico to cover the remainder of the planet, capturing in static heat beneath it. Constant electricity powered an electrical device. Storm that produced flaming hail. The animals who weren't given destroyed at ground zero because of the wildfires continue to grow as temperatures climb. Strong enough to produce their own winds raged through Bali, which was previously lush, and forests at a speed of 9 mph. Just burning at 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. You are aware that it is hot enough to melt. The smaller species live in solid aluminum. Western hemisphere was successful and endured deep heat, but the big Triceratops and T-Rex were examples of men 8,000 miles distant. Roasted alive in a superstorm of dust in modern Mongolia, any animals outside in the open via suffocation, that all-pervasive haze. We previously maintained temperatures enough to support a small number of plants, the last few herbivores to consume a sequence of waves from tsunamis that are 300 feet high strong. Tides damaged approximately 13,000 kilometers of coast. Shockwaves produced by the enormous earthquake kept going for months. Tearing apart tectonic plates resembled shredded paper, and molten rock compelled them. A path around the recently created cracks. There were dormant volcanoes in the earth. Awoke violently with enormous explosions, it continued to spew out dust and debris. Already inside the lethal cloud, this cloud had now encircled the entire world, become several miles thick, limiting the extent of the sun's rays. However, what did appear on the surface was several hazardous gases, such as the hydrogen sulfide that caused the few dinosaurs by suffocating their lungs. Any leftovers at this stage, dinosaurs that endured across the entire due to the manner in which their environment had suffered so badly, horrified by the experiences they all had. About 3 months before it entirely vanished. Subsequent to the asteroid collision, music, dinosaurs' contemporary organisms include earliest aquatic reptiles, insects, and birds. Fish and tiny mammals were able to burying themselves in trees to survive. Simpler deep underground or underwater thriving creatures included fungi and mold. In the barren setting, the invincible fern made a reappearance. The energy of the sun might enter the constant cloud of dust. These ferns developed over thousands of years into woodlands that genuinely infused new life. They brought life to the world, oxygen, and provided the environment for animals to eat, breed, which then became the 10,000 species that exist today. Finally, the crucial query: did you incorrectly clicking the subscribe button? Here's the query: what if all of that failed? Let's consider our options. The asteroid may have carried on with its avoiding being drawn into the gravitational attraction of Earth, entirely missing the planet and allowing the dinosaurs to continue to exist of their peaceful, natural lives. The ship might have sunk into the sea, on water as opposed to on land, greatly absorbed the impact's energy better, so the sequence of events, it wouldn't have happened if large pieces of no building size, no heat when debris falls from the sky, dust cloud capturing and sun blocking the tsunamis most, not volcanic eruptions. Flooding probably would have been worse. Coasts and undoubtedly accruing a high number of fatalities, but they probably wouldn't have succeeded in eradicating entire species. It is doubtful that the outcome will an 11.1 earthquake would have occurred. However, it would have been of a smaller, powerful enough to do significant harm. These situations leave open the prospect of the dinosaurs still existing today. If this had occurred, evolution would have almost impossible for any of the ancient creatures that endured long enough to most construct to the numbers we currently have. A mere fraction of them throughout the Mesozoic era. Predators the size of rodents that scarcely ever nonetheless grew to the size of a cat. Despite being predators, they still fell prey to larger carnivores, or not even as quick. Breeding could have produced swiftly increased their populations enough to establish them as the ruling class. All in all, humans and related primates wouldn't exist if not for, fortunately for us, that unfortunate asteroid, not to mention the creatures like crocodiles, who are sprung from dinosaurs, birds, lizards, snakes, turtles, and snakes likely look a lot more resembling than they do their forefathers. The purely imaginary moment and environment where dinosaurs never existed, their brains would have become extinct, continuing to change and adapt alongside the majority of dinosaur species. Bodies had a tiny brain-to-body ratio, and despite the larger dinosaurs possessed huge brains compared to their bodies. Still unable to finish any challenging, most paleontologists concurred that the Trudon was the most intelligent. Its body was around the size of a dinosaur, and a human has an avocado-sized brain. Pit and a similar level of intelligence. Modern birds were already being used when signals received through the late Cretaceous era, so consider the impact it would have if millions of dollars were handed to it, years to develop, but it may now have a Wall Street employment. According to some scientists, the dinosaur population has continuously decreased throughout thousands of years before to the asteroid's impact, so they could have ended naturally without a cause. But this would prevent a major extinction event have taken place over a considerably longer time frame. Compared to the few months that follow the disastrous effect, since there isn't describing the progression of time and the rise of animals would have been impacted, it's possible many things still haven't happened, but several factors might have stacked the incorrect direction the environment might not, for example suitable for early mammal populations, and it's possible that they were unable to adjust swiftly. The majority of early mammals were the prevalence of insects and predators, and it's possible that wasn't enough time to the mammals could easily support them. Have experienced the same demise as dinosaurs. Birth rates have been steadily declining since countless eons before life would have must start again from scratch, but life finds a way. Otherwise something, if not dinosaurs, mammals would have survived if there had. Obviously, we'll never know if any of this is true, is accurate, but making assumptions is enjoyable. Therefore, how do you envision the world? Like if dinosaurs were present today, the environment will benefit. Would we need to avoid significant mountains of dino feces on en route to work with Fred Flintstone, receiving a raise at last? The rock quarry. Describe your experience for us. Comment your ideas below. Like this video if you found it helpful. Something amusing from it. Tell someone others who will likely find it enjoyable also. Always keep in mind to adhere to the positive aspect of life. Thanks for watching.